Talk to me.
What's going on, sir? How you
There we
doing?
go. Yeah, doing good.
Doing all right?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Timeless Wisdom, Modern Mind. I am your host, Sam Esquivel. As we continue to develop this idea, it's basically like, why did people think the way that they thought back in the day, and how does it help us now? There's wisdom that doesn't last very long. It's basically someone's opinion based on a situation. And when you think about wisdom, yes, it may stem from a situation, but it can be applied over and over, and it still works because it's like a clear line of thinking to help you either grow or move forward. Wisdom helps you do that. Opinion can get you stuck. Opinion is very limited to the circumstance, and so it's not called timeless opinion, modern mind. That's why it's called timeless wisdom.
Right.
And I go back in time, whether I read books that were written 100 years ago, 100 plus years ago, whatever, like stuff that people have said, written, or have done that have helped a lot of people. That's wisdom. And this day and age, we're missing it. We don't have, it sounds like wisdom. It comes out from people maybe that are gray haired and look wise, but it can be very deceiving. For sure, wisdom doesn't cause fighting. I know that's a big statement, but it shouldn't cause fighting, or it shouldn't win an argument. It should expand an argument. And so with that, I'm trying this. We're going to try this new idea. I don't know. I haven't really given Jacob a proper title or place in this creative process.
So we'll say, production assistant for now.
Boom. Your production.
So I had a question, kind of what you were just talking about what wisdom is and why it's wisdom and it's not like opinion or something else. Would you also say like there's a distinction between wisdom and then also just like knowledge? You know what I mean? Like you could be practical about giving someone like a bit of knowledge or a fact, but that doesn't necessarily make it wisdom, right?
So knowledge, like when you're comparing it to wisdom, knowledge is the baseline. And so when you present knowledge, you're saying, hey, this let's start from here. Like we can't change this. If it's science, it's already proven. If it's a quote, it's written by someone else. You know the source. And so that's what it does. It gives you a baseline. And so if you're trying to have a conversation where you're trying to grow or expand someone's mind, you could open just with wisdom. You can just start sharing and saying, this quote, this book, and this pod helped me, and then you just go from there. But there's three baselines there. And so you could also just base it off a profound question and then call that knowledge and say, let's go from there. And so as you're having a conversation, usually that's how wisdom, people think of wisdom as why I choose what I do. It kind of guides me internally. My mind's, it works that way, but I use wisdom in conversation and interacting with people. And so at least it gives you a starting point, right? And then you can always reset if you veer off too much. The knowledge that you kind of put in place that you opened with or introduced the conversation with, you can keep landing there and moving forward as opposed to just moving away from it. When you talk wisdom only, whether again, if it's a quote or a book, then you can just keep going. You can just keep traveling through space till you're just done with the conversation. And so sometimes that works, but I like to present a little bit of a hard factor knowledge.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting from you is like there's a time and a place for both. For exposition, setup, it's good to kind of, whatever topic we're talking about, give some bit of knowledge, give some notes, give some context. And then hopefully, as the conversation develops, we're feeding off of more, wisdom and kind of like a broader perspective that kind of helps this, the mind, the spirit, the heart, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to talk about wisdom. So I do storytelling, I do communication, I coach people on how to share their story. And it's not a defined line, but to me, wisdom is very important whenever I'm coaching someone on how to communicate. They might not see what I'm pulling from, or they obviously can't see all the books and research and everything that I've done in the past. It's helping me understand how and why someone is sharing something. But that's what I use in my head as prompts to kind of coach them and kind of guide the person on how to share better, whether it's their story, a hard or a sad or a happy story. I always fall back to wisdom in my head. Now, I could say it out loud and say, you know what do you think about this? Have you ever heard this story? Have you ever used this bit of knowledge to help you understand what you're going through? Then they begin to understand what they're sharing.
So what would be maybe one example of a book you've read recently, or maybe just a thinker, somebody, even it could be a podcast that has resonated with you recently?
I got it. Let me find it right here. Okay, here's a few. So I like looking up lists and stuff. In this age of AI, there's tons of, everyone makes a list. 6 ways to order a burger, 6 ways to do this, 5 ways so. But they do lead to things that make you think. And so I have this one, and it's 6 harsh truths. I'm just going to say 6 hard truths. And it has 6 of them. So someone would kind of see this and they'll scroll through it on their social, and then they'll just be like, that's good. And then just feel like they grew from it and then just move on. And it doesn't really, how can I say, it doesn't turn into wisdom. It doesn't turn into, they don't download the file and then add to it so that they can really use it in life. It just feels good to learn it. And people are satisfied just with hearing something, but not providing the action. So I heard this phrase the other day, is there's a lot of believers, but there's not a lot of behavior. And so this is a wisdom is kind of a behavior thing. So I'm going to read a few of these, and then you just tell me which one you want to expand on, and then that we can roll some examples through that. So the first one is, once is a mistake, twice is a decision. Number 2 is, people never forget the why you made them feel. Number 3, if you're not losing friends, you're not growing up. Number 4, an apology holds no weight if you have to ask for it. Number 5, you cannot heal what you don't let yourself feel. And then number 6, we will never meet again, so make sure you follow us.
Is that what it said?
Sorry, I got scammed. Damn. But anyways, you will never meet, there's a chance you may never meet someone again, so when you see them, be kind. How about that? That's number 6. Okay, so those are, for me, they're kind of like knowledge, right? They work. There's truth in all of those. They're truth in a biblical, spiritual sense. I'm sure this person got these from Sunday school, but they're also true in just basic human interaction. Some of us learn these things early and it benefits us. Others learn this through a lot of heartaches, and then it becomes true. And so it kind of connects us to that pain. Sometimes it connects us to our faith, and it connects, and sometimes it's a starting point to us shifting our mind because we hear it, right? Put so simply. So out of these 6, which one would can we zoom in on, and then I can kind of answer the question you had.
I think, what was number 3?
Number 3,
like the one with friends, like if you're not losing friends.
If you're not losing friends, you're not growing up. So if you're not losing friends, there's 2 things. You probably don't have friends. I'm joking. Because you ain't got no friends. No.
Right, bro.
Okay, let me read it and then give me your thought, and then I'll do my thing, right? If you're not losing friends, you're not growing up. When you start looking things as in a whole, whether this, let's just count this out right here, okay? So this is number 3. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this is power. This is math. It's weird math, but this is math. There's 9 words in this phrase. These 9 words can produce thousands of words. You with me, Jacob?
I'm here.
You
I got you.
okay?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Wake up. He fell asleep, guys. He fell asleep. And so that's what I see this. I say, okay, this is 9 words. This is powerful. But these 9 words can hit 1,000 people. How can these 1,000 people create wisdom that can help them from here forward? Okay. So I'm going to break it down for you. And again, this is like our first time trying this. Like we're kind of doing pickleball or tennis right now, right? Would you agree? Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, it's a good analogy. Yeah, I feel you.
Okay, so when I look at it, for me, what I like the most about this is growing up.
Right.
Okay, so whenever I look at that, I'm going to ask you, give me short answers because I know you talk as much as me. What does it mean to grow up? And you referred to middle school, high school. We'll cut middle school out, but we'll say senior year, you're graduating, you're going to step into adulthood, start having some responsibility. What are some of the first things that you need to grow up in that transition?
I would say work, occupation. Like, what are you going to do to?
Yeah, so that's an easy one, right? You're going to have to work. And when you have to work, all of a sudden the time you had is going to be reduced. So,
of course.
So you're not going to have time to hang out with people because you're working. So that's growing up. Growing up is changing. It may be changing down, maybe changing up, but it's changing something. And so in order for there to be balance in our life, when something changes, something else, there's no room for the old thing. Right. When you start bringing the old thing with the changes that you're making, that's when it starts creating stress in your life. And so growing up, you start losing friends. If you're not losing friends, you're not growing up. And so my question to you is, what do you want to accomplish on a monthly, weekly basis, right? All of that should lead to big change and your atmosphere should grow. It's not an ugly thing, but as you level up, the people that are inspiring you, helping you, begin to change. And if the other people aren't growing or have the same goals, it's not a negative thing, but they start falling off because they're not contributing to what you're trying to do. The other part of this, now we can expand on growing up. We can expand on getting better. Growing up also works in reverse. If they're growing up and you're not, then you're the one who's going to be left behind. But you can still translate it as in, I'm losing friends. But really, people are putting you off because you don't have growth in your life.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
And then so on the first part, it says losing friends. When I hear losing friends, if you're a senior or first, second year in college, by that time you have friends that you've known for 15 years. You know, 1 through 4, maybe you didn't know each other. You were babies, you were kids. But 15-year worth of friendship, that's a long time. So that's what I would define in the sphere of like wisdom. It's a true friendship. Now, it's a young friendship, so you don't understand struggle and family and all that other stuff, but it's still a real friendship with a lot of memories, a lot of attachment, a lot of growing up, a lot of first y'all experience, a lot of let's go ride bikes, let's go fish,
right.
You know, all that good stuff. You eating with each other's families. So all of a sudden you're talking about the pain of losing someone. It's not death, but it's pretty close because you when you begin to lose those friends, it is going to affect you. So it's not like a cheer thing, like, oh, I need to lose you because I'm outgrowing you. If it was a real friend, it's still sad to have to let
feel
them,
those emotions.
Yeah, to have to let them go.
The grief of it.
You're going to have grief. And you're talking 16, 17, 18-year-old going through grief, but they don't classify it because we always relate it to death. We always relate it to super dark.
That's true.
But these deaths happen. And these friendships are real. And so it's nothing to celebrate. If anything, the wisdom for me in this is, okay, can you surround yourself with people that you don't mind investing in? That you don't mind giving them an opportunity to come with you on this investment, whether you're buying and flipping a home or starting a business, and you say, hey, you want to come with me? Like, because I value our friendship. And if they don't come with you, then they're going to fall off. But again, there's going to be grieving there. So I feel like some people will hear and see this statement and kind of see it a bit prideful. Like, I'm growing. They're not. They're losers. I'm a winner.
Right.
No, maybe you're like a winner. Maybe you're doing better, but you left your friends behind, and you're making strangers a little more rich. You could have did that with your friends, even if they didn't qualify.
Man,
you still had friendship to grow on. And when I see that number 3, that's how I would break it down, to turn it into a conversation, to turn it fruitful in someone sharing their story.
Could I respond a little bit? And this is where I would maybe even start sharing my story a little bit. So initially, I kind of talked about emotion, right? Like, okay, put your emotion aside. This person isn't serving you anymore. Go on, do your endeavors. Move to the new city. Do all these things. They're lagging behind. All that kind of stuff. To be fully honest with you, man, high school, going into college, going into kind of traveling, I had that mindset, man. When I was like 19 to like 25 or whatever, and I was kind of making moves, trying to get into the film industry, trying to, make new relationships, I had that perspective. And maybe it wasn't, I feel like I still do have a good heart, and it wasn't like, oh, I don't want to I don't care for these people anymore.
Yeah.
But I had a prideful mentality. And I was like, okay, I'm making these moves. They're not making these moves.
Yeah.
They're still in the same town. They're still in the same area. They're still in the same suburb. What are they doing? Why are they? Let me distance myself. Let me make some moves. But I appreciate you putting it in a new perspective, because if someone is not willing to kind of go through that emotion or experience it, when real grief comes, like when you really lose somebody, when someone, like a death in the family, or a friend passes away or something like that, it's going to be very difficult to deal with that, because you didn't process, or you didn't properly, deal with that grief and that relationship of even on a smaller level, as losing a hometown friend, or not losing, but making a definitive stance to say, I'm going to make a stance to kind of like separate myself from this person, yet hopefully still giving that respect and the love they deserve, kind of thing.
So let me give you a little something more on this, okay? Because earlier you had asked me knowledge and wisdom, right? And I talked about knowledge. So the baseline here is the number 3, right? It's if you're not losing friends, you're not growing up, right? That's the baseline. So everything you're sharing and I'm sharing, all I'm doing in my mind right now is referring to this, okay? So one of the struggles is being able to put a period in a thought. Like, there's people who can just go on and on and on, because once you share, it opens up another window. Then you open another window. Then you end up in that hole when you look in the mirror, and it's like 1,000 times over and over, if there's a mirror behind you. But if you turn around, it's just one mirror, right? But on the other side is a ton of them. I don't know if that was a good explanation. But what I'm saying is learn what you first started talking about, so that you can put a period on the conversation. To me, it's not good just to keep going deeper either. Because if you keep going deeper, let's say you go 10 levels deep, what we just shared is barely 2 or 3 levels deep. If I go down to 10, dude, there's something good there that's going to replace what we just learned.
You
understand? Okay, so here's how I'm going to put a button on this subject. Okay, so in order to leave with positive vibes and to say that Timeless Wisdom Modern Mind has done its job, is in this one word sticks out, and that's friends. That's the one part that I think that subconsciously, when you read this, you erase that. And now you're thinking about haters, you're thinking about enemies, you're thinking about people you want to show off to, you're thinking about chips on your shoulder, and it's not that, dude. It is like me and you. It's like you're my friend, and I start growing, and I'm like, I got to lose you, bro, because you're not growing, because you're struggling, because you're there. Like, it's still a friend. Look at this through a friend, and guess what it does? It makes you have to reflect on who you are as a person.
For sure. You get personally convicted.
Yeah, take the word friend out and replace it with the other things I said, then you can make moves and you can cut people off, and no big deal, right? No heart. But really, really highlight, circle the word friend, friendship in that statement, and it makes you slow down. It makes you really look at that statement, and I think that that's when you can provide some growth.
And if you don't mind, I'm gonna put one more button on our little conversation. The friends and it speaking to the heart is super important, because I think nowadays, especially, in this podcast world, this content world, creativity, we put a lot of value on accolades, on money, on success. And even those things are fruitful, and God wants us to experience those things too. Like it's still, those are still positive things, but they're nowhere near the value and the experience you get with your friendships, especially when you were young. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think valuing that, even though there is times where you can experience grief and you're moving on to new endeavors, to value success and your notoriety more than your friendships, that's a negative, that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? You don't want to go down that path. Then you just become, the asshole entrepreneur that nobody likes because he's always working.
Yeah. So you did something great there. In conversation, in flow, in storytelling, there's something that's hard for people to do, and I'm going to put this out there because I want y'all to be able to do this. And so I said, I'm going to put a button on it, and then Jacob said, no, I'm going to put a button. It's like a 2-button polo, and he put the top one, I put the bottom one. You have to learn how to let other people have the last word. If you can do that, that's my wisdom to you. If you're able to do that, you're killing the ego. And the ego will not let you not finish without the last word. And so, Jacob, you got that one. But I think that I have to practice that. That's something that I have to practice in.
You make a great point. I do too, man. I think we're doing good for each other in that regard.
So let's do one more. And I think this one's good. And then, I like how that kind of went. Like you...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read this one. I'm going to read this one and see what comes of it. And then from there, we'll just see, guys, if Jacob is going to go into the post-edit, and if we can kind of, if this is good enough to share, right? Jacob will make that determination. And then if it is, you'll be watching it right now, and then I'll be happy. But we're going to be testing out a few things as me and Jacob get to learn each other's, the way our minds work. And so acronyms in life are very important, because whenever you have a system or something at a glance, like if you see a stop sign, you don't need to read stop. You kind of know the shape, you know the color, and you know the 4 letters, and you know it means stop, and that's why it works. And then it's over and over and over. And so acronyms kind of work like that. They're like these stop signs or signs in our mind that help us. And it just depends on what words or meaning you attach to it. So I have a good one that I kind of think it's fitting for the growing part of what we read just a while ago, and that is FIRE, F-I-R-E. And the F is focus, the I is improve, R is rise, and E is execute. So FIRE, focus, improve, rise, and execute. Are you doing something cool behind me? Look at that. Dude, I need to figure, see, next time we can put a camera and we can shoot it right there. But hopefully, Jacob has this written out. He can probably do a screenshot and add a image there.
Yeah, I'm going to, there's ways to kind of get
so,
in there for you.
Okay, so with that, Jacob, and what we're doing today, does it trigger or turn or activate anything in your head?
Focus, improve, rise,
execute.
And execute. I mean, it puts a lot in my head. I mean, I feel like I personally strive to achieve and embody all 4 of those. Focus, I think I'm pretty good at. You know what I mean? I feel like I can improve.
Yeah.
And then, which would, ideally lead to a rise in perspective or skill set or, all those kinds of things. And then execute. I'm pretty good at executing. Not gonna lie. I mean, even when, I feel like executing is very important, because sometimes you can be stuck in a state of like, paralysis, where you have like these projects, or you have these things you're trying to do, or I'm gonna post this, or I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna do this. And I've been doing better at, in my personal endeavors, even when things aren't exactly maybe in the ideal state, still just executing them, just to, see what happens.
Yeah.
Because I think we kind of get, or even me, I can get kind of paralyzed in perfectionism. I think that, executing is important, because you don't want to just like, keep doing something and it not ever be executed.
Yeah. Okay, so we just picked this acronym. It can be anything. It can be any acronym that you come up with on your own or you look up. And Jacob focused on focus, and then he jumped to execute. Obviously, the other two are in there, improve and rise. And so when I look at these, I look at them individually, the words, right? Focus and improve, and then rise and execute. And then as the bit of wisdom for this acronym, so that it's just not something you say when you're talking so that you can sound smart. Like, so you can sound like you have a mic and you're speaking to an audience. I mean, this would be fire if I used it in a talk. But how do I use it in my life? And so for me, I would grade every single one of them. Like, I said, this is fire. This is what it means. And I'm talking to a group of people who could use this to help them. Well, if I simply just tell them and just allow them to share, it's not going to help them. They're going to go wherever they feel they can share the most to help others, not necessarily where they can help themselves. So for each one, I would put like a scale of 1 through 5, and I would say, how bad is my focus? 1 through 5 on work. How bad is my focus? 1 through 5 on my creative endeavors. How you understand what I'm saying? Then you really start understanding, as opposed to saying, "Oh, I need to be more focused on creative." Well, we'll define
Let's measure
it.
this.
We'll
Let's
define
measure,
it.
Give you some perspective.
Exactly.
Right.
And then you get to improve. Improve for me is growth. It never ends. So for me, that scale is the same. I would put a scale and say, where do I need to improve in, and why and how? This should lead to some kind of document, like documented in a journal, or you should see a change in some of your projects.
I gained 5-pound muscle in the gym.
Yeah. So there should be a change when you look at that word. And a lot of people just, I don't know, they just like saying what the change might be.
I did it. Or
improving it's for the most part, it's not 100%, but for the most part, it's tangible. You cannot talk improvement without having to prove it. And that was cool. That was kind of a little word play there.
That was tough.
And then it says rise and then execute. Rise is a bit vague. I think of like the Gladiator, the movie.
Yeah, more glory,
Rise,
triumph.
Yeah, and so for that one, it's like it's not a scale for me. For me, it's like, how do you wake up and how do you look? What do you look in the mirror and tell yourself in the morning? Right. And how different does it sound to what you tell yourself at night after you got, go Sam, execute, ba 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 in the morning? And I said, man, I just did one thing out of my whole in the morning thing.
You rose up out of the bed.
Yeah. So to me, it's that. Like, rise is those two things. Like in the morning, what do you say to yourself? At night, what do you say to yourself? If there's some push, if there's some positivity, and you're not beating yourself up, I believe that you're rising to the occasion. Execute, again, that's like in like the improve. Execute, you can't cheat. And execute, you cannot cheat. At some point, here's what I learned about creativity, or people who are creative. They have a hard time executing. When they begin to execute,
I see what you mean.
When they begin to execute, that's when they realize how many of their ideas they believe, how many of their talents are real, how many of their theories can play out. And so that really is like,
or just on a practical level, people who are kind of creative, especially if they're more, like say they're musicians, or say they're painters or drawers, or people who are like visually inclined, they're in tune with that kind of like spiritual or, kind of emotional vision. Yeah. And most of the time those people aren't as practical or as rational as people like me and you who are more technically minded. We have our own businesses. We are making, cordial and professional relationships with people who actually execute things on a larger level. And most of the time, and it's not like a negative thing, that's, what is it, the left, right, you know what I mean? The difference between left, right side brain or whatever, like that practical side, people who are creative kind of have some trouble with that sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's hard for them to kind of execute things. And then vice versa, people who are more executors, practical organizers, sometimes it's difficult for them to, maybe improve on their, creative and open-mindedness. So it's a double-edged sword there. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think both feed off each other, but each person can grow in the different ones, if that makes any sense.
Dude, this is great, guys. I hope this gets edited, produced, and it gets shared. I kind of enjoyed our conversation, Jacob, and I want. It's funny because when you finish your last thought, you said two things that could literally be some more topics. One was left and right side of your thinking of your brain, and the other one was double-edged sword. Those are some wisdom-based stuff there. Like there's a lot there. Those are good baselines. And it's funny because when I literally drew it out. I know it's going to take a second to focus. But the double-edged sword, I would, as a wisdom thing, as a coach, as a storytelling coaching thing, that really is a good model to help people see.
It's a good image. It's a good
Yeah, but it's funny that you finished with those.
But we can cut it though. We can, like you're saying, we don't want to go too long-winded.
So guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media, but especially here on YouTube. Leave a comment. Right, we're talking. I'm an open thinker. Like I like to process things live. I don't always get it right, but it's in the right direction. I tell you that. It's nothing wrong with thinking out loud, not being like a perfect thinker or having everything fleshed out. But I'm hoping that I kind of opened your mind a little bit about either communication, either about wisdom, or even just interacting with someone. Just you saw me interacting with Jacob. We didn't rehearse that. He just went off the dome, and I went off the cuff as well. And it worked out. And people are scared of that. And inside of being free in conversation and storytelling, there's a lot of nuggets in there that could help you learn about yourself and learn about someone else. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.